Hey everybody, welcome to KCM once again. This is falling on. I'm sorry. Hey guys, nice to see you guys all again. Familiar faces, couple old familiar faces. It's good to see you guys. If you guys haven't noticed, for the month of February, at least until this part of February, we've been going through, I guess, kind of like a series essentially on love. So we went through What is Love? Brother Don't Hurt Me, right? From the line, Rocks Show the Rock, something like that. And then the very next week we went into we went to Brotherly Sisterly Love in dedication to Valentine's Day. But we all know that Valentine's Day is also, and most particularly known for love between a man and a woman and romantic love. So in light of that, we've actually invited a pastor who has been here time and time again, who has served us with his time and his energy, even amongst having 3 children and being a faithful pastor, to Friendship Baptist Church. And he has, and his wife has so graciously agreed to come along with him. And so could you guys at this time invite warmly Paula and Pastor Robert Kendall and their church.
I'll just talk about it. All right, it was good to be back with you guys. Definitely enjoyed it. I'm going to go ahead and send around a handout, which my wife says means you guys won't be paying attention to the first 5 minutes, but that's fine. I don't know if I split it fairly or not. What we're going to do, Dan had asked Paula and I to both speak. He'd asked Paula to speak to the girls and me to speak to the guys, which is great, except that leaves my 3 kids running around the building during that time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share with you a general crash course on the one book of the Bible that talks about romantic love. And then my wife's going to come up at the end to give, I know you, good to see you, Lisa. Sorry, from years gone by, I'm feeling old. Yeah, she's going to come up at the end and take questions and answers as well, especially girls from your perspective, because we're going to cover a lot of things. And she'll give her 2 cents of wisdom, which is usually worth a lot more than what I have to say. So she's going to watch the kids while I crash course you through the book in the Bible that deals with romantic love, which is Song of Solomon. Yeah, romantic love's not even really in the Bible. But we decided to go with Song of Solomon, so we're going to see if we can get through the whole handout and study the entire book of the Song of Solomon in 30 minutes, right? I have till 7:30, and then questions. Where did Dan go?
Dan, how long do you have?
Till 10 o'clock.
Till 10 o'clock? Let me pray, and I'm going to ask God's blessing on us, and then we're going to see if we can cruise through 8 chapters here in 30 or 40 minutes, all right? Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you so much for your blessings to us. I thank you for this opportunity that we have to study your word. God, it's an awesome, awesome book that we're going to study. It's an awesome portion of the book that we're going to study tonight. And I pray that you would speak to us. And I pray that you would open our hearts and that you would challenge us and that you would grow us and help us to really understand what your thoughts about love are and how that relates to the husband-wife relationship. So I just commit all these things to you in Jesus' name. Amen. I realize that most of you really don't know me, so let me just give you a little bit of background, a little bit of bio, and why I'm qualified or not qualified to speak about romantic love. My wife and I met in college. I was world's most awkward man. I was a very driven person. I didn't walk across campus. I had a walk that everybody on campus knew that I won't do for you. But needless to say, I never sauntered. It was boom, 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 head down, charging across campus. I wore pants that were way too tight and a shirt that was very ugly. And I had acne like there's no tomorrow. And my hair completely gelled flat on my head. And it was a very scary sight. Anyway, I met my wife, who was much better looking than me, but was also not like world's most gorgeous person, and both of us began to hang out, and we began to talk to each other. And no, it gets better, it gets better. She just said I'm not lying. Yeah, that's true. And she went with the frumpy look, you know, just old t-shirt, old jeans, and hair in a scrunchie. That's kind of her standard look. And we started hanging out, and we actually ended up being really good friends. And every time we talked, we'd talk for hours and hours, and we were great friends. And you know, at one point you begin to ask yourself, like, this is a really good friend, but not a girlfriend. And you know, and she's thinking like, yeah, Robert's kind of a cool guy, but not a boyfriend, you know. And And I remember we had this big kind of campus function coming up, and if God ever spoke to me, I remember where I was. I was with a friend, and he was like, hey, are you going to take anybody to this campus function? And I really remember like God saying, Robert, if you want to have a good time, take Paula Heathershaw. And I was like, no, she's not attractive. And you know, I was like, it's just going to be fine. But it was the thought that went through my head. And so, you know, the more I thought about it, the more I kind of began to rank my odds with all the attractive girls on campus and realized I didn't stand a chance with them. And I didn't stand a chance with her. And so, being the manly man that I was, I asked her out. And the way that I did it is we'd kind of been emailing back and forth. And we had found an Outlook that you could change the colors and fonts. See, we're really old, okay? I know you guys, like, you know, you have all this instant communication. Okay, we were still doing emails, and we were doing it. Honey, we're dated now because we emailed in our relationship. We didn't know what podcasts were.
We didn't have cell phones until 5 years ago.
I know, we didn't have cell phones or anything, text messaging, none of that. But we began to start, like, I think she figured out she could put the words in different colors. So we were just emailing back and forth about our day, you know, in random colors and, you know, random fonts and changing it. And like, woo, this is kind of cool. And so what I did, you know, being the manly man that I was, because my wife is incredibly smart. She was a 4.0 all through college. Yeah, definitely incredibly smart. And yeah, took some crazy hard classes, music history, where you have to memorize, you know, 50 pieces of music and know 17 things about each one. Like, she's incredibly smart, and I thought, you know, she's going to figure this out. And I did not have the guts as a man to actually go up and say, hey, will you go out with me? So what I did is I took, will you go out with me? Okay, like the words, will, W-I-L-L. And so in my email to her, I made it all black and white. And then I took a W in one of the words, I made that one red, and an I red, and an L red, and an L red. And then U I put in blue, so I took Y-O-U in random parts and made that blue. And, you know, go was like green, and then out, you know, might have been like yellow or whatever. Because I just knew that this incredibly smart woman would receive my coded email, and she would see all black text, hey, how was your day, blah, 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 how was the lunch food, how's your test? And think, why are there some red letters? And then she would immediately write them down, and she would, you know, break my code. So I sent her this email, and I didn't get anything back. And then we ended up playing games that night. And the whole night, she's like flirting so hard with the guy that we're playing games with, because she was trying to get him to ask her out, and I'd already sent the email asking her out. And so, you know, it was really awkward watching her flirt really hard with this guy the whole night, and oh, it was scary. And so I told my RA, when I got back to the dorm, I was like, yeah, I did this whole email thing. And he looked at me like, you're a moron. and I was. But so a couple days later, we went to a Christian school. It was day of prayer. And she invited me. She said, you know, I have a conversation I want to have with you. And I was like, okay. You know, we had a lot of these conversations. We'd had a lot of heart-to-heart conversations. And we sit down, and she says, you know, I want to ask you something. She says, you know, you really pour into a lot of people. And I did. I've always been a pastor at heart, and I spent all my time at school building relationships with people, and I was kind of the counseling person. And many of you in this room, you're that person. You know what I'm talking about? Like, everybody who has problems comes to you, and yet you don't really ever take your problems to anybody. And so she asked me, she said, I'm curious, where do you go with your problems? And being the incredibly humble and spiritual man that I was, I said, well, I go to God. I don't need anyone else, and you know, and so that's who I am. And so she laughed, and we talked all afternoon, and we went back and forth, and we used to talk theology. I know that's one reason I was attracted to her, because it's not too often you find a woman you can talk theology with. And so at the end, after like 4 hours, I'm thinking, okay, my email didn't work. I've actually got to ask this girl out in person. And that was like terrifying for me. I'd never asked a girl out in my life before. And yeah, sophomore year of college, junior year of college. Never asked a girl out before. And we're sitting there, I said, okay, I've got another theological question for you. She says, yeah, what's that? And I said, well, will you go to this campus event with me? And you know what she did? She laughed. Talk about feeling like this big. I mean, now in retrospect, here she was expecting, you know, like explain the Trinity or something, you know, and I'm like, will you go to this campus event with me? And she laughed, and you know, my heart's like beating incredibly fast, and then she says, I would love to go to that with you. Oh, and she told me later that, you know, during that split second, she thought about the guy she'd been flirting with, and she thought, who are you kidding yourself, Paula? He's not going to ask you out. Robert's a decent guy, at least you'll have a date, just take it. And so she did. And so we're going to this thing. It's an all-night party, and it was we were just going as friends. But I was thinking, maybe there's a little bit more here. We're still, that whole stage where you're just talking. You don't really know what's going on, but you're talking a lot and you're hanging out a lot. And so we get in the car and we're in the back seat, and somebody else is driving, and there were 3 couples going, and one couple was engaged. And the other couple was like us, that was just kind of first date kind of thing. And I was thinking, well, maybe a little more than a first date, and she says, hey, isn't this great? We've got the engaged ones and the not-at-alls. Okay, well, I see where we're sitting here. But I won her over by the end of the night. And by the end of the night, I had her with her head on my shoulder. We were going back home. She was half asleep. And then the rest of it was magic ever after that. And I share that with you because if you forget everything else I'm going to say tonight, okay? Love is not what your culture teaches you love is, okay? Love is a choice. And I honestly have to say that my wife and I both think, well, I don't know what she thinks about me, but I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world. And a lot of that is not just, it's not just because I've changed, but she's changed, and like she dresses nicely now and does her hair every day, and like come home like, man, I got a good-looking wife. And, for a guy, that's, like, so important, that your wife be attractive, and you're just, I don't know, I'm thrilled to be with her. We have been best friends since day one. We have never had a fight in almost 9 years of marriage. Like, never had a fight, never raised our voices at each other. We disagree, but we talk it out, and really are just incredibly best friends. And the best thing in the world is when the kids disappear, and then we realize how much even better friends we are. Because it's just like there's no kids around yapping, I need this, I need this, I need this. And we just can't wait till they grow up and leave the home, and then we'll get to live happily ever after. And I want to share this with you because romantic love, in the movies, it's based on appearance, it's based on sexuality, and it's based on these fleeting emotions. And emotions come and emotions go. And life stinks. We live under the curse, okay? You will get cancer. You will lose your job. Your parents will die, okay? That's going to happen. And if your love is built around these emotional things, if it's built around, these feelings of love, that will go away. I'm a pastor. All the time, couples come into my office and say, I don't love him anymore. I've never loved him. And I'm like, well, you're kind of married to him, so we've got to make this work. And because they have a worldly idea of love, they have no idea how to make that work. Because they think that everything in love is built around an emotional thing. Are the emotions there? They do. They come. They really do. And my wife and I have tremendous emotion. And we really, it's not like we're still stuck together, but well, we're good friends, so we make it work, okay? No, we really do love each other. We have an incredible marriage. I could only wish that each one of you could have a marriage like mine. Are we perfect? No. Do we get on each other's nerves? We do. Okay, it's not like it's this magical movie thing, but it's a real love. And it's the love that you're going to see in the Song of Solomon. And I want to just walk you through the handout that you have tonight. We're going to try to cruise through the whole book, so you're going to have to open your Bibles. We're going to read fast. The Song of Solomon is incredibly deep. It is incredibly rich. It can just share so much, and I'm going to be butchering it to run through it so quickly tonight, but I really want you to understand some things that might help you. And what I want you to understand, first and foremost, men and women are different, okay? What a man wants out of a relationship is very different from what a woman wants out of a relationship, okay? And that's one of the biggest problems, is because what the world is going to portray is it portrays women as wanting what men want, and it portrays men as wanting what women want, and it doesn't work that way, okay? Let's look at your handout real quickly, and then we'll kind of go through and we'll pull this out. What does a woman want in a relationship, okay? Women, you were created by God to want a man who will hold you close. You want security, all right? That women just get insecure very easily. You want a man that's not going to leave you, okay? Bluntly put, why do women give sex? To make the guy stay around. They really think that by offering that, they can buy a man's love, okay? That's their point, to draw him. They want a strong, loyal man who loves her, okay? What do men want? Okay, we don't want a woman that'll hold us close. How many of you men, like, I just want a woman to hold me? Not really, okay? If you're like lonely or something, maybe, okay? What you want a woman worth dying for. That's where the attraction comes in, okay? Nobody wants to go die for the ugly woman that's got a great personality. You know what I'm talking about? You want a woman that, man, like, the way that she acts, her character, her integrity, her godliness, yeah, man, I'd die for her. That's what you want as a man. That's what you're craving as a man. You want a pure, beautiful woman that respects you. Okay? As guys, we don't care so much about being loved. We want respect. Okay? And women are like, what do you mean? They need to be loved. No. You need to be loved, okay? Women need to be loved. And men, we don't really understand that thing because we're like men. Like, we respect each other. Like, I respect you, man. Okay, you stay there, I stay here, right? You know, you go up to your wife, you go up to your girlfriend, like, I respect you, woman. You know, she's going to be like, yeah, good for you. I'm not dating you, okay? The woman, she wants love. You want respect. But because she wants love, what does she give you? She gives you love. And you say, I don't want love, woman, I want respect. And she's like, well, I don't want respect, I want love. And so you end up in like this, and you end up beating each other up. And how many of you now feel like you're never going to be in a relationship because you can't seem to find somebody that treats you right? And you know, guys are like, where's that beautiful, godly, passionate woman? And all the women are like, where's that godly man that'll hold me close? Okay, well, it's in Song of Solomon, so let's find it, okay? Here we are. Here we go, chapter 1, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. What does she want? Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Your anointing oils are fragrant. Your name is oil poured out, therefore virgins love you. Draw me after you, let us run. The king has brought me into his chambers. Okay, she's just going to open up now and start spurting. What does she want? Okay, she wants to kiss. By the way, you're going to hear this a lot tonight. I really strongly believe that you need to protect your, I don't even just want to call it sexual integrity. It's your emotional integrity and everything. Don't kiss, don't hold hands, don't do anything until you're really sure that's the person you want to be with. Okay? I would not kiss until, well, my brother waited till he got married. We waited until shortly before we got married. Well, 9 months shortly before we got married. Yeah, I didn't want my first kiss to be in front of like 400 people. But anyway, it's going to start out with her desire for the kissing, but that does not mean, women, that it's okay, and men that like, well, she wants to be kissed. First date, lady, here we go. No, we have to protect this, okay? She wants that emotional closeness. You notice what else she wants? Your love is better than wine. Your anointing oils are fragrant. Your name is oil poured out. What does she respect about this man? Notice she does not say, because you've got a six-pack. Guys, I hate to break it to you, women really don't care what you look like, okay? Because that's the opposite of how we are, okay? We are all about the looks. Women couldn't care less, okay? And I tell you this, I mean, walk up to a girl sometime and you're like, ugh. She'll laugh at you, okay? She will totally laugh, okay? If a girl comes up to you and like, you know, does it, whoa. Go up to a girl and do that, and she's just like, yeah, what's wrong with you? She cares about his name. Men, a woman wants a man with character. Okay? My question to you is, do you have character tonight? Do you want romantic love? Okay? It's not because you've got the muscles, okay? Drop out of the gym and develop some character. Because that's what a woman wants. She wants a man who has a name that is oil poured out, that the virgins love you. A man that women are attracted to because of his character. You know, when the women start talking, okay, they're not going to talk about the guy with the biggest biceps. They're going to talk about the guy with the greatest character. Okay, that's who she wants. And notice what her desire is in verse 4. Draw me after you. Let us run. The king has brought me into his chambers. Girls, what do you want? You want a guy that's going to take you on an adventure. Okay, how many of you want to meet a guy and he's, hi, how are you? Good. You know, and he's like, you know, I want to get to know you. You're like, okay. So what are you going to do with your life? Well, I don't know, but I play a lot of video games. Oh, that's nice. Are you involved in your church? Well, I can't find a church. Okay, what's your passion in life? Well, to marry you. Girls, isn't that like totally attractive? No, you want a guy that knows where he's going. The one way that it wasn't my looks that won my wife over. What won her over was I had a vision. I knew what I wanted to do with my life. And she knew that life with me would never be boring, and it hasn't been. It hasn't been everything she thought it would be, but it has not been boring. Men, know what God's called you to do. Be able to offer that to a woman. Now, here's something I got to credit you, and I can tell we're not going to make it through the whole book. Anyway, a lot of men, they come to me and they, Robert, I'm thinking about pursuing this woman. And that's great. And guys, you do need to take the initiative, okay? But there's a difference between pursuing and stalking, okay? And I think this is important. This guy comes, what does she say? She says, draw me after you. Do you hear that? Girls, what do you want? You don't want a guy to pursue you. This is what happens. Girls walk around and they have like this whole entourage of guys just like chasing them like little dogs, okay? What do you want? You want a guy that says, hey, I'm going on a journey. Do you want to come? Is that not attractive to you, girls? I mean, for a guy that says, you know, God has called me to, and it doesn't have to be like missionary or ministry. Maybe it's just, you know, God's called me to be a doctor, and this is how I really want to use this for His glory. And, you know, I would love to have you join me, okay? Now, obviously, that sounds like a marriage proposal. I'm not talking about that. But, like, you know, for a guy that says, this is what God's called me to do, come along with me. So often what I see in Christian circles, it's like the National Geographic thing, you know, where there's like the little antelopes out there grazing, and then he goes into the bush, and here's like the tiger, you know, and he's like, and he walks in, and the music starts playing, and the tiger goes, boom, and then the antelope takes off, and then finally the tiger gets even. You know, I've just seen guys, they come to me like, Robert, I'm praying for this woman, and I'm going to pursue her. And I'm like, oh no, give her some warning first, okay? Guys, don't pursue a woman, okay? Lead her. Know what God has called you to do and lead her along, okay? She'll respond to that, okay? Chase her down, you might tackle her, but you're not going to win her heart, okay? Let's skip down to verses 5 and 6, all right? I am very dark but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Do not gaze at me because I am dark, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard I have not kept. Tell me, you whom my soul loves, where you pasture your flock, where you make it lie down at noon. For why should I be like one who veils herself before the flocks of her companions? What's she saying here? If you notice in verses 5 and 6, she has not had the time to really take care of herself, but she wants to be appreciated for who she is. So this was my wife. She was focusing on piano. She was playing piano, I forget, 2, 3, 4 hours a day and focusing on her studies. She wanted to be appreciated for who she was as a person, not for her looks. And we had the girls on my campus that were like, you know, the drop-dead gorgeous ones. I mean, they were failing out of school because they took all the time to get their hair right and everything else. Okay? Women want to be appreciated for who she is. She says, look, don't judge me just for what I look like, okay? Judge me for my character, for who I am. Because that's what, and guys, we're so visually oriented. You're going to have to learn to look at a woman's character and not just at her looks. Because that's what a woman wants. And my wife and I have talked about this a lot. Because, men, when you start building up a woman because she's beautiful, we think we're like complimenting her. Like, wow, you're really gorgeous. But what she hears is, you're in love with my looks. So what happens if when I have a baby I put on a few pounds? What happens if I have breast cancer and have to lose a breast? What happens if I have to have chemo and all my hair falls out? If all you've done is talked about how beautiful I am and how gorgeous I am and why you're so in love with me because I'm so hot, what happens if I'm not so hot anymore? So men, you've got to reassure your wife that you're in love with her character. This woman starts the book and she says, listen, I'm not the most beautiful woman in the world. But Solomon says that's okay, and he goes on, and later on 3 times he talks about how completely gorgeous she is. Because he says, listen, I know, yeah, you may not think you're the most beautiful woman in the world, but trust me, there ain't nothing you can do that's going to change my focus and my loyalty towards you. You notice in verse 8 what she says? She says, or verse 7, tell me, you whom my soul loves, where you pasture your flock, okay? She wants him to provide for her, okay? Women, in our society today, we've neutered our men and we've raised up our women. And so we have our women who are out trying to get the careers and stuff, okay? I'm not going to bash on women getting careers, but I am going to say, men, you're the one that's supposed to provide for your wife. And women, you will be most fulfilled if you can go to him and say, tell me where you pasture your flock, okay? That sounds really weird. What's she saying? Okay, that's where he made his provisions, okay? She says, listen, I want to be a part of you. I want you to provide for me, okay? Guys, what builds you up more than anything? It's what happened in the movies, you know? The guy's there fighting, and then the hot girl comes along. Are you going to protect me? You better believe it, baby. Give behind. All right? You know, yeah, girls, it's not real attractive, you know, when a guy sits down to get to know you, and you're like, you know, I'm set. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to make 6 figures, and, you know, I figure you can stay home with the kids. You know, we'll adopt them or something, so I don't have to get pregnant and lose my figure. Okay? The guy's like, I'm not, you know, if you're a law major, please don't email me. I'm not, like, bashing on you. But what I'm trying to say is, women, let the man protect you. Let him step it up because, guys, that's what we want. God has put within us that be a man, protect. We're scared because our culture makes fun of men, okay? What's every commercial, okay? Every commercial is stupid guy can't figure out how to use product, right? And it blows up all over the place. Gorgeous girl, hair flying in the wind, comes in, pulls out bounty paper towels, and cleans up stupid man's mess, okay? That's like every commercial. Men are stupid. Women are competent. Okay? Men, we've been beat down to where we don't think that we're actually capable of providing for a woman. It's scary to think that I have to feed myself and her. Yeah, but you know what? Be a man, rise up to it, because ultimately that's what a woman's going to look for. If you want real romantic love, okay, it doesn't start with, oh, she's beautiful, I'm beautiful, we all live happily ever after. It starts, men, with your character and with deciding that I'm going to be able to provide for this woman. I'm going to be able to really show her love. For God so loved the world that He what? Gave His only begotten Son. God came to the table prepared to deal. Man, you want to be in a relationship, you want to show real romantic love. Romantic love is not a candlelit dinner on a picnic blanket with fried chicken, okay? Romantic love is coming to the table prepared to take care of a woman, okay? She looks at him and she says, hey, how can you take care of me? Are you willing to take care of me? Okay? What does he say in verse 8? If you don't know, O most beautiful among women, follow in the tracks of the flock and pasture your young goats beside the shepherd's tents. Basically, come on, honey, I will take care of you. I've got it covered. I'm a man. All right, guys? This is the start of romantic love. It sounds like a business transaction, okay? Who's going to pay for me? I'll pay for you. Deal. Okay? But that's the start of romantic love. When Paula came to me and she says, Robert, you can provide for our family. Okay, wow. That's hard, okay? We've got 5 mouths to feed, soon to be a 6th. Okay, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of stress. But you know what? I got a woman that I got to provide for. And as a man, that builds me up, okay? Women, nothing will build a man up better than to look at him and say, listen, our relationship's starting to get serious. You do plan to provide for me, right? Okay? If he turns and runs, you didn't want him anyway. Okay? If he says, I'll take it, now you have the foundation for true romantic love. Okay? I compare you, verse 9, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. Isn't that interesting? Okay? Guys, sit down with a girl and say, you are as beautiful as a horse. What's he doing? I think this is very important. Solomon was an incredibly gifted king, okay? An incredibly talented. He raised and bred horses. He was a tremendous lover of horses, okay? He compared her to some of the greatest loves in his life, and he says, you're more beautiful, okay? Guys, don't compare your wife to the swimsuit models, okay? Because then she's going to be like, you were looking at the swimsuit models? Don't say, you're more beautiful than the girl that sits across from me, in lab or whatever. No. You come to her and you say, listen, of all the things in my life, the areas where I invest my passions, I love music and stuff, but being around you is much more important to me than playing my music. Okay? See, that's the romantic thing. You don't say, man, you look better than my bass drum, baby. No, you go and you say, what he was saying, he says, listen, I breed horses. I am passionate about horses. Horses are my life. But you know what? I compare you to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. You're better than my passions. You're what I'm about, honey. It's not about my occupation. Because women, what are you afraid of? That your man's going to end up like your dad. Who what? Did you ever see your dad growing up? No, because he was out working, 17 hours a day to pay to put you through school. You want a man that says, listen, I'm going to work hard, but when I come home, you're who I compare to. So guys, you make your career second to your wife, okay? Taking care of your wife is first and foremost what you want to do. Let's skip down to verse 12. Sorry, we're going to have to... let's go down to verse 16 and 17, okay? Behold, you are beautiful, my beloved. She's talking now, truly delightful. Our couch is green. The beams of our house are cedar. Our rafters are pine, okay? What she is doing here is she is appreciating his provision for her, okay? Where are they? With a green couch, the beams of the house are cedar, and the rafters are pine, okay? And if you're going to see this down in verse 4 of chapter 2, they're kind of out in the middle of the woods, okay? When you get married, you might be really poor, okay? And your couch might be green from the 80s, okay? You might be living in a tiny little wood shack. But what does she say? She says, I appreciate how you've provided for me because, this is beautiful wood that's taking care of me. And I'll tell you, one of the things that has built me up as a man is that my wife has never undercut me and never made fun of my provision for her. And you have to understand, we started our ministry in a Korean church, okay? And the reason I say that, and if this is stereotyping or racist, I apologize, but all the Koreans that I know are rich, okay? Because they work very, very hard, okay? The first generation, they come over here, they buy a store, they work very hard, they drive a Mercedes, and they live in $1 million house, okay? and then they buy all their kids like Honda Accords on their 16th birthday, okay? Well, we come from very middle-class poor, okay? And we were English pastor in a Korean church, and we're showing up driving my little stick-shift Ford Contour, living in a tiny one-bedroom apartment, and we're pulling into our church, and there's Mercedes everywhere. And then we go out to eat afterwards, and there's, you know, all these nice restaurants, and we go over to people's houses, and they're huge. And then we went to my second church, and we started with some of our best friends in that church. He was a doctor, she was a doctor, and I have no idea how much money they made, okay? And not once did my wife ever look at me and say, you know, way to go, we're living in an apartment while, you know, my best friend, what was her name? I don't even remember. Is they're like, you know, driving their Mercedes and all this kind of stuff. Women, appreciate what your husband provides for you. Okay, he may not be able to give you the world, but you want to have love in a relationship. When he brings home the check, to look at it and say, that's all you earned this week? You know, my girlfriend's husband, he earned like double this. They're going on a cruise. You might as well just take a knife and stab him in the heart. Okay? But you look at your husband and you say, I appreciate what you've provided for me. Even if it's nothing, he will die for you, women. And it will build the kind of love. And that's what this woman does. She looks at him and she says, our couch is green, the beams of our house are cedar, our rafters are pine. You are the man. And man, he's ready to die for her, okay? Notice how he describes her in verse 2 of chapter 2. As a lily among brambles, so is my love among the young women. He says, you know what? You know, beforehand I compared you to a horse. Now I'm going to compare you to every woman. Every other woman out there is a thorn bush. And you, my girl, you're the rose. Because why? She built him up for what he provided for her, okay? Let's keep reading. Oh man, I'm running out of time so fast. What else do I want you to understand here? Let's just keep going and we'll see how far we can go. As an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the young men. What does she say? All the other young men, they're just old pine trees. But you, my love, you're an apple tree. You're a fruit tree. You're a manly man, okay? When my wife looks at me and she says, you're better than all the other guys. Guys, we're suckers, okay? And women, you need to understand that. Guys are like, I am? Yeah. Try it. Just go up to a guy and say, man, you're good. Just watch him. Guys, we have these ego things. It's really sad. As an aside, if you study Proverbs, by the way, men and women, when you study Proverbs, how does the adulteress act? It says with syrupy words, you're so strong. You know, girls, you can see right through that. You know the sluts that I'm talking about. They go up to the guy, and you're sitting over there about to throw up. You know what I'm talking about? Because she's like stroking his arm, and you're like, he's falling for it. And the guy's like, she's stroking my arm. You know, and the next thing you know, he's gone. Guys, we are such suckers. It's so hard for me. Because I've even told my wife before, like, I'm having a hard day, you should just say this to me. And so she'll look at me, she'll laugh, and she'll say it. And I'll say, oh, I feel so much better. And she's like, really? I was laughing. I couldn't even keep a straight face. I'm like, I know, I'm a sucker. I feel so bad. But when she goes up to him and says, you know, you're an apple tree among all the trees of the forest. Women, romantic love is not living happily ever after like it is in the movies, okay? It's about choosing to look at your man that right now you could punch and just send him across the room because you think he's a total jerk, but trying to say something nice. Because saying that little nice thing will just build that relationship so much more. How many of you have been around when your mom said something detrimental to your dad? And you can watch your dad just wilt. Okay? Men, we want to be built up. We want to believe that we're Schwarzenegger, that we're the hero, okay? That we're going to do it. And romantic love, women, is when you tell the man, you know, you're a godly man. I see these characteristics in you. He brought me to the banqueting house. His banner over me was love. Again, do you see the man providing for the woman? He brought me to the house. Men, when you're ready to get married, you don't look at her and say, so, are we moving into your apartment? Okay? It might work out, you know, financially you got to look at it. I'm not saying it's a sin to move into her apartment, okay? But what I am saying is that your plan cannot be to take her car, her apartment, and have her work at her job, and that's your plan to get started in your marriage, okay? If that's the case, you really stink as a man, and you need to go grow up first, okay? You need to bring her into your house, your plan, your oversight. Notice what she says, and women, this is going to be really hard. Sustain me with raisins, refresh me with apples. Honestly, women, if you found a man that had this kind of character, you'd be falling in love with him, right? She says, I'm sick with love. His left hand is under my head. His right hand embraces me. I just want him to hold me close. Again, what do women want? They just want hugs. That's what my wife says. No, this is a hug. And I'm like, really? Okay, well, here's a hug. You know, and what do I say? Well, I want you to tell me I'm great. She's like, really? Okay, you're great. You know, so I hug her. She tells me I'm great. And we live happily ever after. That's how that works, okay? But notice what she says, verse 7. Women, this is crucial. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles of the does of the field, that you do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. Women, one of the hardest things you're going to find in your life is that there is that godly man here in KCM, and for some reason he's blind as a bat and he still doesn't see you. Okay? You've got to wait until he takes the first move. Okay? You can't, if you take it, then now suddenly you have the upper hand, and then it's going to... And it doesn't mean that you can't, like, get to know him, okay? I've seen some women, they just kind of curl up in a corner and they think the guy's, like, going to go, you know, dig him out or something. You can get to know him, okay? But as far as asking him out, as far as saying, hey, we need to have a DTR. Hey, we need... You guys know DTR, right? Define the relationship? Okay, you have that. No, this is important, men. You need to do the DTR, okay? That means when you kind of hung out, you know, like every day for the past week for like 4 hours, and all your friends are starting to ask, so are you not? We don't know? You have a DTR, and that's where you sit down and say, okay, here's the deal. I like you. Do you like me? Whew, okay, you do. Now, okay, we're going out or whatever. So you got to define that. Women, it's not up to you to be like, hey, we need to talk. Where are we? Okay? You need to let him be the one that defines that. Okay, notice how she adores her beloved. The voice of my beloved, verse 8, chapter 2. Behold, he comes, leaping over the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or like a young stag. Behold, he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, looking through the lattice. My beloved speaks and says to me, arise, my love, my beautiful one, come away. Okay, what's he doing? He is initiating the relationship. Men, do you want to have true love? Initiate the relationship. Don't be the bull with the ring in his nose that just gets led around for the rest of his life with his wife, whatever she wants to do. Men, initiate the relationship, okay? What does it say? The winter is past, the rain is over and gone. Hello, tomorrow it's going to be in the mid-70s. Winter is over and gone. This is your chance, men. Go, knock on her door, look through her lattice. Say, come away with me. Come to the dining hall. Let us get lunch, okay? All right? See, if romance starts, you got to credit me, okay? And then he goes on and on and on. Arise, my love, my beautiful one, into verse 13. Come away. Oh, my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the crannies of the cliff. Let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet. Your face is lovely. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes. What is he falling in love with here? Her face. Not her body. Her face. That's this part, man. Okay? We can laugh, but we know that our culture does not concentrate on the face. Okay? What does he say? He says, you have a beautiful face. Okay? When he looks at her, men, he's able to keep eye contact and not stare 12 inches lower. Okay? And we laugh because it's true, because a lot of us as men have a very difficult time with our eyes. Men, shape it up. You're never going to be able to convince a woman that you love her if what you really love is certain parts of her. Do you understand what I'm saying? Verse 16. My beloved is mine, and I am his. Women, what do you want? You want to know that that man is in love with you and you alone. Men, what is romantic love? The picnic blanket and the candlelight dinner doesn't hurt. But what she wants to know more than anything else is that no one else in the world is going to be able to take your focus off of her. She wants to confidently declare, I am his and he is mine. Remember, we are the bride of Christ. What is our greatest fear? What is our greatest need before God? We need to know that we belong to Jesus Christ. And that when we stand before God, there will be no condemnation because Jesus Christ will have wrapped his righteousness around us. Okay? That's how the bride responds. That's how the woman responds. Men, in the same way that we stand before God clothed in the righteousness of Christ, your future wife needs to know that she is fully clothed in your love, that she is yours and that you are hers, that an affair is not even possible because of the way that you protect your relationship with her. Okay? That's not the movies. The movies, you meet at the bar, you fall in love, you have sex that night, and that's what makes it beautiful. Okay? That's a bunch of trash. Okay? It's the commitment that's going to make a solid marriage. The reason my wife and I are so madly in love today is because we are so committed to each other. Okay? We have crazy rules. Okay? We don't even really maintain any friendships with members of the opposite sex. We really don't. She has girlfriends. I have guy friends. We are very careful with any kind of relationship, even as a pastor in counseling. I usually keep the door wide open. Paula walks into my office all the time. Yesterday, or Monday, I was counseling a woman in our church that's actually good friends with Paula, and she was coming in and needing some pastoral counsel. My wife walked right into the office in the middle of the counseling session, and the counseling session was done because it was time for me to take my kids home. Why? Because it is infinitely more important that I take care of my wife than that I take care of a woman in our church that had some issues that she needed to deal with. Does that make sense? And my wife knows that she can walk into my office at any time. I answer my cell phone at any time. Okay? If I'm in the middle of a meeting and my wife calls, I answer it. If she texts me, I text her right back. Anything else holds. Okay? Men, these are the things that when you get married will assure a woman that you love her, and that's what she wants to know, that you are hers. She has an insecurity complex. She wants to know that you're always going to take care of her. Okay? By the way, men, this happens after your marriage. Okay? You're going to suffocate the poor woman if after your first date you're like, okay, you are all mine, woman, and I'm going to follow you wherever you go, and I'm not going to let you out of my sight. Okay? No. You've got to realize this is after you take the vows of marriage. Got that? All right, let's keep going. We'll get into chapter 3. On my bed by night I sought him whom my soul loves. I sought him but found him not. I will rise now and go about the city and the streets and the squares. I will seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him but found him not. The watchmen found me as they went about in the city. Have you seen him whom my soul loves? Scarcely had I passed them when I found him whom my soul loves. I held him and would not let him go, until I had brought him into my mother's house and into the chamber of her who conceived me. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. Do you see the tension that she's starting to have? She woke up in the middle of the night. Her man wasn't there. She had to have him. She had to chase him down. She had to go get him. Guys, sometimes I do feel like my wife stifles me because she wants to know that I'm there. And I'm like, honey, I've got to work. I've got to do church. I've got to see these things forward. But, men, this is our opportunity to be Christ. How many times do we go to God and say, God, I'm just hurting now. I'm not sure that I'm really saved. God, I'm not sure that you can really forgive this sin. I mean, if God treated us like we want to treat our wives sometimes, it'd be like, are you kidding me? Let's go over this one more time. Jesus died on the cross. I raised him again. You're forgiven. Would you just get over it? Do you really want God to treat you that way? No. What does God do? When you go to God and you say, are you sure you can really forgive? I mean, how many times have I told you I'm not going to get drunk, or I'm not going to fool around, or I'm not going to do this, and then it happened again? And God says, come here. Remember? Jesus died. He's raised again. It's all done. Let me hug you. And men, you're going to be in a relationship and your wife's going to be like, do you really love me? And your first thought is going to be like, are you kidding me? This again? How does God respond? She couldn't find him. She had to go chase him down. She found him. She held him. She wouldn't let him go. And men, there's been times when my wife's just hugging me and she's crying and I'm hugging her. I'm like, okay, I'm done hugging you. She has to know that I'm holding her. Men, romantic love is in it for the long haul. It's staying in there. It's putting your arms around her. Once you're married, not before you're married, okay? And hanging in there and saying, I will not let you go. I will be here for you through the long haul, okay? But notice even then she's still saying, I want him to pursue me. I don't want to be the one. And women, you're going to find this tension. You want him to love you, but you don't want to tell him that because then he'll only hug you because you told him you needed a hug. Okay? Guys, it's so unfair, but that's the way it is. So just hug a lot. Okay? Just hug him and keep hugging because she wants us to love her. What do we want? We don't want God. Do you ever feel like God's sitting up there waiting for us to pray before he'll answer it? And have you ever felt like, come on, God, you know what I need. Would you just answer it without me praying? Okay, women feel the same way, guys. They want you to just know what she needs and take care of it. And you're like me, you're saying, I don't know how that's possible. Well, in love, study your wife, okay? Learn to read her signals. It's taken me 9 years. I've learned 2 signals. I've got about 400 more to learn, okay? But I'm gonna keep trying, okay? What is that coming up from the wilderness like columns of smoke? Verse 6, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all the fragrant powders of a merchant. Behold, it is the litter of Solomon. Around it are 60 mighty men, some of the mighty men of Israel, all of them wearing swords and expert in war, each with a sword at his thigh against terror by night. Oh, we have a manly man procession here, do we not? Interestingly enough, she only describes his body 1 time in the book of the Song of Solomon. He describes her body 3 times in detail. When she's describing him, what does she notice? His character, his achievement, his work. This is my man. Look at his biceps. No, she doesn't say that. She says, this is my man. Look at his warriors. Look at his army. He's the prince. He's the leader. Men, what is a woman looking for? And women, how can you build up a man? Man, what do we want? We want a woman that recognizes our accomplishments. Women, do you want to have a solid marriage? Take your husband, whatever his accomplishments are, and say, that's my man. That's my man. He made a C in bio. He thought it was going to be a D, but he got a C. Okay? You know, you pull him aside and you say, I knew you could do that. I knew you wouldn't fail because you're my man. And that's how you do these. Man, guys, your head will pop if a woman ever said that to us. We're so that way. She builds him up based on his character and on his accomplishments. Women, your husband is going to strive so hard to provide for you, and you will never know the pressures that he is under to meet the provision for you, and by recognizing those achievements is huge. Somebody once told me they were in a hospital waiting room and the TV was stuck on a channel, so they were watching a talk show with $300 an hour prostitutes. Okay, so this person wasn't really interested in watching that show, but that's what was on. Did you know that with many of these $300 an hour prostitutes, they never actually had sex? Seriously. The woman said that what they would do is they would go to the hotel room, and there were these high-powered CEOs, these executives would come, and she said they would just start drawing on the wall. And they'd start saying, you know, this merger has to take place, and if we don't buy this company for this million, and then if I don't make the vice presidents here, then I'm going to lose my whole career, and my wife's not going to... And she'd just sit there and say, you know what? I think that merger's going to go through. I believe in you. You're going to do an awesome job in this. I know that you're going to be a great businessman. And he'd give her the $300 and he'd walk out. Because that's what the man needs. It's very interesting. But guys will affirm this. You want a woman that believes in you. And the greatest form of romantic love, women, is not the sex-based love, but it's coming to your man and saying, listen, God has called you to be a pharmacist. God has called you to be a school teacher. And I can see that you're going to be the best school teacher. Women, you say that to your husband, he will kill for you. Okay? Won't he? Can you imagine that, guys? If your wife looks you in the eyes and says, I can see how God is using you, and he's going to continue to use you. Oh, yeah, baby, let's bring it on, okay? That's what builds love, okay? It's not the negligees and the lingeries, okay? It's the words of encouragement and speaking that, okay? Skip down to chapter 4, verse 1. Behold, you are beautiful, my love. Behold, you are beautiful. Your eyes are doves behind your veil. Your hair is like a flock of goats leaping down the slopes of Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of shorn ewes that have come up from the washing, all of which bear twins. Not one among them has lost its young. Your lips are like a scarlet thread. Your mouth is lovely. Your cheeks are like halves of a pomegranate behind your veil. Your neck is like the Tower of David. Again, he's not comparing her to other women. It sounds really weird, but he's comparing her to important things in his life. And he's saying, you surpass all these other important things in my life, okay? Notice also, as weird as this sounds, he spent 4 verses and never got below her neck, okay? And then, yes, it does get to the breast part and the sex part in verse 5, okay? But he spent 4 verses above her neck. Men, okay? Secret. If you want to love your wife and once you get married, this is all marriage talk, by the way. When you get married, if you want to be intimate with your wife, spend the first 4 verses, translated 4 hours, from the neck up, okay? Let her know how much you care about her outside of her sexuality, okay? The sex is a part of marriage. It's a wonderful part of marriage. It's great for both partners. The men especially are going to be much more driven that way. But men, sex does not make romantic love. Okay? Romantic love is based on caring for the other person and treasuring the other person. Not about treasuring their sexuality. And what he does is he spends 4 verses here treasuring who she is as a person. Comparing her eyes, her lips, her ears. Okay? I mean, women, wouldn't it be awesome if your husband was as infatuated with your ears as he would be with your chest, okay? That's what you want. You want him to love all about you. And men, you need to understand this as he goes through here. Until the day break, and the other thing you need to understand, the 2 breasts are like 2 fawns, twins of a gazelle. How do you approach fawns, men? Very gently, okay? And this can get awkward, I'll say this and move on. When you get into the sexual realm, men, don't be a pig, okay? Treat it with respect and with love and with compassion, because that's what it's supposed to be. Do you know in the Bible it says Adam knew his wife Eve? That's the actual Hebrew. It'll say Adam had relations with his wife in other translations. The Hebrew says he knew her. What does that mean? Well, that means they had sex. No. It means he knew her. And he could look into her eyes and he could read her. And he knew how she was feeling. And he knew how to hold her. He knew how to hug her. He knew how to touch her, not just intimately, but he knew how to communicate with her. And that's incredibly important. Verse 7, you are altogether beautiful, my love. There is no flaw in you. Come with me from Lebanon, my bride. Come with me from Lebanon. Depart from the peak of Ammon. And he's going to go on, and this is actually kind of the wedding night. And we have a mixed group, and we're out of time, so I'll skip that. I'll come back some other time, walk you through it. It's very explicit. The one thing I will bring out here, it's very clear as you read through it and as you understand and you break down the poeticness. She was a virgin who had saved herself for him. And I really want to challenge the women, save yourselves for your men, because men will try to do anything they can to manipulate you, even good guys. And I have to admit with shame before you that my wife was the one that maintained the purity in our relationship. I thought that I had tremendous standards. I thought that I would be tremendously pure. But put in under pressure as we began to fall in love, I was horrible at maintaining the boundaries that I should have maintained. And I say with shame and regret that my wife was the one that had to maintain the boundaries. And I say this not just women, men maintain the boundaries too. But I think for women, protect your body, because when a man wants your body, he doesn't want to love you. He wants to satisfy his selfish ends. And giving him access to your body, however slight that may be. I really think even like holding hands and hugging you should be careful with, okay? I wouldn't kiss till after you've been engaged for months, okay? And that may sound archaic, but like I think it's wise to protect that. And men, I'm not just throwing all this on the women, so women don't get upset. Men, in our culture especially, lust and pornography is rampant. And every man that I've talked, almost every young person that I've talked to, including many that I've been involved with at KCM, have struggled tremendously with pornography. And so I'm just beginning, I don't mean to be judgmental, but I'm beginning to take this as just as a matter of fact. I know that lust is definitely a struggle in my own life. And men, I will just say to you, guard your eyes, guard your heart. Okay? It's kind of a twofold approach. Men, if you will guard your eyes and if you will guard your heart, and women, if you will guard your body, between the two of you, you hopefully can maintain purity until the day of your marriage. It is very difficult because God has given us hormones, He's given us love, and you begin to have a true love that begins to blossom, and you want to just consummate that. You want to push the lines. Men, guard your hearts. Guard your eyes. And I said it before, I keep covenant eyes on my computer. Every website that I go to, it emails it to Paula. Okay? Men, put it on your computer. Okay? Is it embarrassing to go to somebody and say, hey, can I email you every website that I go to? Yeah, it's embarrassing, but you know what? I'd rather do that than end up getting stuck way off somewhere and completely destroying your wedding vows. Okay? If you have the slightest problems with this, and our culture is going to bombard you everywhere, man. If you go to the mall, if you walk across campus, if you watch any movie, even PG movies, you're just going to be bombarded with sensuality and sexuality. And we cannot let that corrupt our relationships. So in chapter 4 here, they finally consummate the marriage. She's very much a virgin, and his eyes are very much only for her. Men, keep your eyes on your wife and her alone. Women, keep yourself pure. What happens if you've stumbled and you've fallen in one of these areas? Well, you know what? It's a new day in Christ. You are freely forgiven. God does not think less of you. But start today. Don't say, guys, well, I've already watched a porn movie, so I guess I can't really ever stop it now, can I? No, that's stupid. Women, don't say, I really regret what I did with my boyfriend last year. Okay, that's done. Move on. Okay? Keep yourselves pure. In Christ, you are a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come. Keep yourself, that's the key to romantic love, okay? If I could give you one key to romantic love, it's maintaining your purity and your integrity before Christ and before God, so that when you are united in marriage, men, your eyes and your heart are for one woman and her alone. And women, that you have saved yourself to be given to one man who is now your hero and your leader and your the guy you look up to. And guys, when you've got a woman that's that beautiful and that pure, man, it makes it easy to keep your focus on her and her alone. And I'm not talking just sexually. I'm talking like everything. Just the woman you want to talk to, the woman you want to text, the woman you want to hang out with, the woman you want to laugh with. And women, that's what you want. You want the guy that's going to be hanging out with you, and so on and so forth. They feed each other, and the love just builds and builds and builds and builds. And I'll have to come back another time and do the other half of the book. So I'm sorry. At this time, I do want to invite my wife up and take 2 cents from her, and then take any questions that you guys have. We get to go to about 8, give or take. Yeah, they might run away from you, or they might sit there. We'll see. They have color marker books, so they can come up here. Do you have anything you want to add from anything that I said you disagree with? Or?
I'm not a speaker. I guess a lot of everything that he shared tonight was from the Old Testament, and so I thought I would just read a couple verses about what the New Testament says. This isn't the only verse. These aren't the only verses that are there, but they kind of summarize it. But Ephesians 5 is one of the main places of teaching for marriage in the New Testament. And he talks, starting in verse 22, he's talking about wives and submitting to their husbands and the husbands loving their wives. But at the very end, verse 33, he says that each one of you must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must see to it that she respects her husband. And I guess we were at a marriage conference this last weekend, and it was about love and respect. And one of the main things that he said that stuck out to me from these verses was that we have to gain our view of marriage and of love and of all of those things from the Bible and not from our culture. And that's so hard because we live in the culture, and we're called to engage the culture. We are called to be in the culture but not of it. But there's so much in the culture, like Robert said, that's backwards. That it's all about love, and it's all about feelings, and the feelings are there and they come, but we have to seek in whatever thing we're studying to think biblically about it and not culturally about it. And I think especially with the whole issue of women respecting men and the whole thing of wives submit to their husbands, we have this idea because the world tells us that if you submit to a man, he's going to walk all over you, and you're going to lose your sense of identity, and you're his doormat, and he gets to do whatever he wants, and he can, just trump you every time. But the fact is that the opposite is actually true. That I guess I just think of, and the guy at the marriage conference gave this example, but you think of men that are in the military. They have a commanding officer up there that believes in them, and they're standing up for inspection, and he can look them in the eye, and he can say, I believe in you, you guys have worked hard, and you are manly men, you're men of honor, you're going to defend our country, let's go. And he turns around, he walks out the door, and every one of those men is going to follow him out the door and die, because they know that their commanding officer believes in them and respects them and wants to have them along in the battle, whatever it is. And I think when the man at the conference shared that, I just really resonated with that what do men do when they are respected? They serve and they die. And so if your culture is going to tell you, ladies, that if you let a man be the leader of your home, if you let him initiate the relationship, if you defer to him in big decisions, that you're going to become a doormat. But that's thinking culturally, that's not thinking biblically, because God's the one that set this up in the first place. And he says that men are to love their wives and that women are to respect their husbands. And if you do that, he will die for you. And he will feel love towards you. And he will show that in ways that are meaningful to you. So I guess that's the main thing I want to say, that think biblically, not culturally.
Do y'all have any questions? You can address them to either Paula or I or both. Yeah.
Is it ever appropriate in a certain context for a woman, in some sense, financially, be the primary financial supporter of the family, even for like a certain period of time?
Yeah, you're going to have to walk in the Holy Spirit. I really believe that. I used to be very legalistic, and I'm gradually coming out of that. I would always caution that. You can never say never. I had a professor in college, and her husband was handicapped, and she happened to have a PhD in literature, and so she taught literature. She very much submitted to her husband. I think he literally was at home in a wheelchair, and it was very hard for her to be the breadwinner of the home and still, to submit to him. There are going to be times, and I say this, and this may be a pride thing, it may be an ego thing, but when I went to seminary, I was blessed. I was in a church that paid for my seminary. It did not pay us enough to live on. I went to graduate school full-time. I was a full-time pastor, which was 40 hours a week, and I worked at Home Depot 15 hours a week. There were days when Ethan was born that I did not see him from morning until dark. But because of that, Paula never worked. And did we have any money? Not really. But I met her needs. Now, some of that I realize is an ego trip, and I realize that God opened doors. But I would be really cautious, guys. I know a lot of you do have graduate school and post-grad and everything else on your plate. I'm not going to say that I think it's wrong if your wife works, but I've met some guys before who they just pretty much let their wife work so they can play video games and go to grad school on the side, and I think that's wrong. But you know what I'm saying? Like, be the man, but if God opens up doors, in retrospect, I think we would have encouraged her to work a little bit to be able to pay off her school loans a little bit faster. She teaches piano now, and that's mad money, and she uses that to decorate the house. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say that's wrong all the time, but be very careful. What else? Oh, and by the way, if you are in a church and you're in church leadership, church pastors are paid pathetically poor to the point that their wives almost have to work. Pay your pastors a fair salary. I'm very gracious now to be paid a fair salary, but many churches pay their pastors squat and then expect them to work ungodly hours. And many of you are not going to be pastors, but you are going to end up being the deacons and the elders in your churches. The way to decide how much a pastor should pay is you average the salaries of everybody on your leadership board, okay? Which in this area is $100,000 a year, and that's where you start. And you can laugh, but I mean, he's responsible for your spiritual guidance, and I can actually, if you want to play hardball, go to 2 Timothy, and it says he's worthy of double honor, so he technically should be making $200,000 a year. And, I mean, I can actually kind of biblically support that. I don't make near that, okay? But I'm very fortunate to be at a church that pays me a very fair salary, so... if you do go into the ministry, the worker's worthy of his wages, and if your church doesn't pay you a fair salary, go somewhere where you will get paid fairly. Okay. What else? Yeah.
If a man can see himself supporting like a family financially for a while, say they're going to med school, say they're going to law school or whatever, or graduate school, and they won't be able to get a job for a while, do you think they should pursue or lead a woman?
Okay. I think you should get married as early as possible. Okay? I really do. Because Paul says, especially in our culture, it's better to marry than to burn. And you put it off to your 30. Women, your bio clocks are ticking. You can't wait till you're 45 and then decide to have a baby. Your body won't work anymore. And trust me, when they're up at all hours of the night, you need your youth to be able to handle that. I do think that you should get married early, even when you're going to grad school. There is nothing wrong with sleeping on an air mattress on the floor of an efficiency apartment. That's what you're going to have to fight against. Our culture says, don't get married until you can both have your own car, a 3-bedroom, townhouse, and spending money on the weekends, and you go on a giant cruise for your honeymoon, okay? There is no reason why you can't get... I do weddings for free. You can get married in my church for free, okay? You can go to Ocean City during the winter and get a condo for $100 and come back and live in an efficiency apartment and eat ramen noodles, okay? It works. In fact, it works great because that adversity will drive the two of you together. You have no money, you have nothing else to do, so you sit and you talk and you build a relationship. And one of the reasons we're so tight is because we didn't have anything we could do. So we just sat around and we talked. And we walked, because walking is free. And so we'd go to the parks and we'd walk, okay? So, yeah, I strongly... And you don't have the doctor's salary to offer, but you have a vision that you're going to med school. You know, God has called me to this. It's going to work out. If I've got to work at Starbucks extra hours to get you ramen noodles, I'll do that, baby. So, yeah. Yeah.
This is random, but what if your degrees, all I can say, the guy's not making less money than the girl?
Yeah. Get another degree. No, and again, I can give you some. I'm not going to start a war on this. I know a lot of godly women work. I really feel when you have children, wives need to be at home raising those children. I strongly believe that. Again, people are going to have different positions. I can have some biblical support. I can't build an airtight case. Men, major in something that you'll be able to provide for your wife. But again, you don't have to provide the cultural norm, six-figure, vacation in Tahiti lifestyle. And the other thing, our culture, the business people that I work with cannot find people that'll do a good job. And I'll tell you this right now, if any of you want to get married, I can give you a $70,000 a year job starting tomorrow. A guy that I work with he manages all the Domino's pizzas in the Washington, D.C. area. And within 2 years, he was making $90,000 a year. He'll start you as a driver, working $12 an hour. If you're willing to work your tail off, he'll move you into an assistant manager. If you're willing to work your tail off, he'll move you into a manager. Managers make $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year. And I have applications in my office. I give them to anybody that doesn't need a job. So if you want to get married in 2 years, I can give you $90,000 a year. You'll be making pizzas. It's 60 hours a week. It's hard work, okay? But you can support a family making pizzas. All right, so there you go. All of you guys that want to get married.
I also want to say that many of you ladies in this room are bright women whom God has given amazing talents to. And it's not to say that women can't be CEOs or women can't be doctors or lawyers. You can be, and God may have gifted you to be that way. But within the home is where the Lord expects you to have this relationship with your husband where he calls the shots. And again, it's not that you're a doormat. You help him. You advise him. Wisdom is a woman in the Bible for a reason. God has given women intuition, and they just get stuff that guys don't get. So you are a helper to your husband. He doesn't just make decisions blindly running over you. But it's in the home where you're going to want to have him be the one that's over you, and that make sure that when you're the CEO, that you're not CEOing your husband at home as well, because neither of you will be happy with that. But anyway,
yeah. In the back, then we'll come up.
This is a question I think a lot of guys are curious about. But if a guy struggles with things like pornography, is it okay for him to enter?
Okay, well all guys are going to struggle, okay? If by struggle you mean he's too dumb or he refuses to humble himself and put covenant eyes on his computer and throw his computer out the dorm room window and, oh, I slipped again, but I'm going to go out and ask a girl out, then no, that's pathetic, okay? But, we're all going to have sin in our lives, and so to say, whether it's pornography or whether it's money management, until I'm perfect, I won't date, that's kind of ridiculous. And I'll say, and I know there's a lot of guys, and this is something I've counseled a lot of college students, so I know there's a lot of guys in this room, you're struggling with porn, you know this girl, you want to enter into a relationship with her, okay? If by struggling with porn you mean you keep going to the websites, then don't even think about it, okay? That's not struggling with porn, that's just called outright sinning and unholiness, okay? Struggling with porn is when you put covenant eyes on your computer or you disable the internet. Believe it or not, the world worked just great without an internet for 6,000 years. Okay? So you might actually survive without internet. In fact, you might actually have time to read your Bible, which you're probably not having time to do because of all the time you're spending on the porn site. Okay? When you make the stop, then I think you're okay to engage in a relationship, but not until you're honest with yourself. Make sense? Question up here.
Though men are called to be leaders for their household, we fall so short from Christ. How do you personally come before God to seek leadership from Him, seek authority from Him, just ask for advice from God like yourself? How do you do it? Do you spend time in prayer, or do you seek other older men? Or
Yes. Definitely prayer and devotions has to be the primary thing. It's difficult. Usually I have my devotions while the kids are running around the house like crazy. My argument is that way they'll see me having my devotions and hopefully that way I can sleep in. I've tried to get up before they get up, but they get up early enough that I don't want to to do that. So you have to be in the Word. You have to pray. A lot of forgiveness, man. You would not believe one of our standard bedtime conversations is Paula saying, you know, well, one of the kids is kind of out of control, or I'm kind of worried about this. And she does it in a very respectful way. And I lay there and I think, okay, I failed again as a man. All right, I got to get up tomorrow. I've got to ask God's forgiveness. I've got to deal with this. That's kind of a standard. Get ready to fail a lot. I would say that. But when you fail, you pick yourself up. And if you have a woman as incredible as mine, she will let you know in a very polite way and in a very supportive way that when you can correct that, she's going to be right there to get your back. So, what else? Yeah.
How do you, like as a father, how do you raise your kids in a very biblical way? Like, how do you teach your kids, I guess,
yeah,
about Bible and all the Christian discipline?
Deuteronomy chapter 6. When you rise up, when you sit down, when you lay down, these words shall be upon your mouth. You shall teach them to your children. You shall write them upon the doorpost of your house. One of the reasons that I am a fan of the man being able to support the wife, we are homeschooling our children. I'm not like a fundamentalist psycho, and we may put them in the public schools in the future. But for right now, especially this one right here, he is very bright, very outgoing, but very influential. And I just am not going to put him under a secular influences for 7 hours a day. It's about, honestly, some days it's about to kill my wife to keep him focused, because tonight he's scared of you guys, but normally he is flying all over the place, aren't you, bud? And he's an awesome child. All of my children are, but he's kind of the firstborn that's kind of paving the way. And so one of the ways that we've chosen to do that, we have nightly devotions. Last time I spoke with KCM, I brought him with me. I don't know if you guys remember that. Just time with our children. One reason I pastor a church is so I can control the church and control, to make sure that the children's ministries are in line. Paula teaches the preschool Awana program. She teaches the preschool co-op. We are very much involved in the lives of our children. And I could do a whole session on parenting. I think I did last year. I would just say, if you're going to have babies, raise them. They're not status symbols. In today's society, you kind of have your little boy, your little girl, and they look cute at soccer, and you sit over there in your SUV and look like a cool parent. If you're going to have children, raise them. Is it going to take all your time and all your effort? Are you going to cry yourself to sleep every night? Yes. But God gave you those children, so pour your time, effort, and energy into it. If you have to have your wife quit work just to pour in all that time, do it. It's worth whatever financial cut you take, and raise your kids. And are you going to mess up along the way? All the time. Every night we're praying, saying, God, how do we get over this one? How do we solve this one? And we're just, I have faith and trust in God that we'll do that for a reason. Yeah?
What's your take on homeschooling?
Huh?
What's your take on homeschooling?
What's my take on homeschooling? Well, obviously I like it. I know this is probably really foreign to all of you guys, but I would really encourage you to look into it. They have so many different ways to do it now. It's just, the way I see it, it's like kind of getting a private tutor. I know you guys hated your tutors for your SAT, but you're able to actually focus their learning on exactly what they need to learn in their learning style. If they knock their math out in 10 minutes, you do it. And if it takes them an hour and a half to get through history, you do that. So you're really able to focus in on their learning styles rather than throwing your kid as one of 20 in a classroom that's kind of just getting pushed through. I'm not trying to knock the public school system. Like I say, we may end up putting him in one day. But for right now, God's put us in a position. We have a co-op at our church on Mondays. They go together, they get the social interaction, and we're able to really focus in on guiding their education. We're psychopaths about it. I mean, these are our kids, and we only get them for 18 years. And then when they're gone, I mean, you know what I'm saying? We've put the influence for 18 years. And probably about the time he's 12, he'll start tuning out our influence. So he's already halfway done with the influence I'm going to be able to pour into his life. So I'm taking every opportunity. That's why my family's here tonight. I could have left him at home, but we got the drive over here, the drive back, the time here. Not that they're listening to me, but they're here. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
What's your view on the difference between a friendship and dating?
Okay. You're not going to like this, but I'll give it to you. I really don't believe in the whole falling in love. I hope I made that clear tonight. I think we did more like a contractual agreement. We were good friends. And I really think if you're good friends with somebody, sit down and talk about kind of your direction in life. Talk about your child raising philosophy. Talk about your life philosophy. If it agrees, look at each other and say, well, you wanna? And if they say yes, okay? I really, the in love part comes. It really does. And if you've got a great friend tonight that's a believer, and you both are passionate about the same godly things and you're going in more or less the same direction, you have kind of the same ideas in life, and you really get along as a friend, you would be a fool to not give it a chance. And so I really think about it. They do arranged marriages all around the world, and you know what? They work. In fact, their divorce rate is a whole lot lower than ours, and we marry people that we love in this country. We fall out of love 5 years later and divorce them. Okay? Your philosophy and your values is what will make or break your marriage. If you have somebody that believes your philosophies and values, just marry them. Okay? I mean, seriously, it works. Maybe one more question? Anyway, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I butchered all of them on her. Anything else? Yeah. Do I believe in what? Dating fast? Sure. I mean, you need to be right. You need to be right with God. You need to know where you're going. And if you're one of those people, there's two types of people in life. There's the person that's always in a relationship, and there's the person that's never in the relationship. If you've always been in a relationship, you might need to take a break and actually learn to handle life on your own before you get in another relationship. So I would definitely encourage a dating fast for those of you who are in that kind of always have to have a boyfriend, always have to have a girlfriend. If you've never had a boyfriend or girlfriend, then you've been on a dating fast. So get married. Anything over here? I don't know why I keep looking over here. Any questions? All right, I'm going to close in prayer so you guys can go eat. I got to get my kids in bed. Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you so much for your blessings to us. God, I thank you so much for this opportunity to just share about romantic love with these people. God, I thank you for the Song of Solomon, for the Word of God, for Ephesians chapter 5, for all that it teaches. And I know that there's so many young men and women in this room that so badly want to serve you. And I pray that you would help them to do that. And I pray that you would weed out the worldly influences, the worldly love that is in their mind, that is very emotionally based, that is very sexually based, that is very attractionally based. And God, that they would really be rooted on biblical principles, that is rooted in biblical character. On men who are men and women who are women who make decisions based on the Word of God. Because God, I know if they will make their marriage decisions based on the Word of God and based on the character that you have given them, rather than their emotions or their perceived needs, that God, you will richly bless them. And I ask that you would do that and that you would raise up many godly marriages from this room. God, people who have a true romantic love, that it comes right out of the Song of Solomon, comes right out of the Bible, that it grows into a passionate love, a true love that's so much richer and so much deeper than any of the junk that we see on TV or movies or with our roommate or through Facebook. And God, I just pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. By the way, if I can do anything for you, please email me. My email, I forgot to put it on the sheet of paper. It's rkendall621@gmail.com. Or you can get my phone from Dan on and call me or text me. It takes me a while to text back. So, thanks for having me.